Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Author Collaborative. As always, I'll be talking to an author whose book I have read and enjoyed recently. My guest today is Natasha Sharma, whose book Beneath Divided Skies I have enjoyed like extremely. It's been one of those books which I have uh, enjoyed very much in a long time. It's a historical fiction and it's based on the partition in Indo-Pak partition. Hi Nilshri, thank you for joining. So my guest today is Natasha Sharma, whose book Beneath Divided Skies I have read and enjoyed, and we'll be talking to her about her experience of writing the book, how she went about it, and many more interesting things. Do stay connected. Let me just see if she's here. She's not yet here. I'll just invite her. Hi Kirti. Hi Aparna. I am going to talk to Natasha Sharma today. She is my guest for the Author Collaborative episode, and we are going to talk about her latest book. In fact, her debut book, Beneath Divided Skies. It's a historical fiction based during the period of Indo-Pak partition. Oh, she's here. Let me just add her. Natasha has just sent you an invitation. See if you can accept it. Oh, Kirti's on the verge of finishing Natasha's book. So, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It's a wonderful book. The Indo-Pak partition has been beautifully portrayed. Hi, Shalini. Natasha, I cannot see you on the screen. Okay. Yes, I received your request also, Natasha. Something is not working out here. Let me see if I can invite you again. Okay, I've sent you a fresh invitation. Hi, Paulina. I know, Nilshi. Okay. Hi, Natasha.
Hello, just let me switch my camera, please.
So there's this Insta glitch where I have been unable to see the guest on my screen. So I'm just going to confirm it from the audience. Can you see both of us? Those of you who are with us, can you just let us know in the comments if both of us are visible? Because I can only see myself.
I actually can see you also.
You can't see me?
I can.
Okay, so there's a problem only on my side. Supposingly, Insta only has a problem with the host.
Okay.
Yes, we have the confirmation from the people who are watching us that both of us are visible and audible. Okay, perfect. We can begin then. So, first of all, welcome, Natasha. Welcome to the Author Collaborative.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
I'm so glad that you agreed to do this because I have been gushing over this book so much. I have been telling everyone in my reader circle that what a wonderful book this was. And, you know, I don't generally read this genre much, but it was one of those rare books where despite having not read the genre much, you are so in awe of the story. You are so involved in the story that you are like, oh, I don't want this to end.
So much. This lovely word. Thank you so much.
So, before we go any further, let's just show the audience the book that we are talking about. So, this is the book Beneath Divided Skies by Natasha. It's her debut book, and it's a historical fiction piece. And it's the story of Indo-Pak partition. Okay, and before we go any further ahead, can you just tell about yourself to the audience also?
Okay. I'm um I'm a hardcore nerd. I belong to the IT sector. I prefer my world to be in ones and zeros. except when I'm reading or writing. Novel. It deals with the Rescue Restoration Act of the 19 of the partition, 1947 partition. And when I read about the partition literature, I was just amazed that there is nothing that deals with this sensitive topic, which is why I decided to do about it. And that's all. That's all. I am my book. My book is me. That's all I want to say.
We are getting a lot of hearts on the cover. People have also commented lovely cover. So already you have a positive response on it.
The cover actually, a bit the design on the cover is my mother's 100-year-old Bulgari pattern that my great grandmother had weaved for her. So it's actually based
Okay.
on it's based on the pattern and it's sort of Aztec pattern, but this is the typical geometric bag Fulkari bag pattern. That is, my mom still has this. In fact, she's given it to. These 100-year-old relic heirlooms, I would say, of the Sharma clan that we
Since
have.
you're talking about it, I'm just going to show the cover again. Those of you who have just joined us, we are talking about this book, and Natasha is telling us about the story behind the cover. Yeah, so Nilshri is also saying how precious and what a memory. Definitely. And Nilshri, I must tell you that Fulkari is also a very integral part of the entire book. It appears as, I would say, it's a character in itself. So the Fulkari work and the designs, they are all across the book, and we learn so much about those designs also during the course of the story. Okay. So, before we move ahead, I would just like to read a few passages from the book. This is from the 11th chapter, and it's based in October 1947 in Lahore. This is how it goes. Iqbal refused to answer any of her questions, choosing to drive in silence. They crossed the walled city of Lahore, continuing to drive a little further down the road. He stopped near a large fort. Lahore Fort, why are we here? Asked Satya. Oof, so many questions, Mohatarma. This is the place I visit when I need peace and solitude, or when I'm feeling melancholic, and I wanted to share it with you. I'm sure you will like it. Satya whispered, touched. Thank you, Iqbal. During the afternoon, the fort appeared deserted. Satya's pink dupatta fluttered in the light breeze, while Iqbal's white kurta flapped against her as they ascended the steps. The wind caused the loose tendrils from her braid to flutter across her face. The fort is huge and we can't cover it in one shot. Let me show you some of my favorite parts, said Iqbal. You must visit it often. Sadly, not as much as have liked to. Nanujan and I were regulars here when I was a kid. He brought us here to demonstrate the power of unity, how one fort can encompass many religions under its roof, a testament of harmony. Interesting. How does the Lahore fort accomplish that? Well, you are in for a treat, a bit of a history lesson for you, Satya. Emperor Akbar, who incorporated Hindu and Muslim motifs in it, built Lahore fort. Shah Jahan added the Persian touch, whereas Aurangzeb had the Alamgiri gate constructed. When Raja Ranjit Singh captured Lahore, he used the fort as his summer residence. He left his mark on it too. It most definitely is a standing testament to how different faiths can coexist. Compared to the current situation, Satya, it appears like a dream. One puff of wind and it will disintegrate. So, this is one of my favorite bits about the. I mean, there are many other parts that touch me a lot, but this is one of my favorite bits because they are talking about the history of the fort during a time when the two countries are at at war. I can't say it war, but they
Right.
are in a very
Not
difficult
war,
situation.
yeah, sort of, yeah.
Yeah. So there's hatred. I can say there's hatred and misunderstanding between the two people from both sides of the border, and they are talking about harmony using the Lahore fort as a symbol, and it was just beautiful. Uh, that's of course that is one reason, and another reason was that I didn't know so much about the Lahore fort.
It's actually named after Lord Love. That and there's another place whose name, of course, now I will not remember because I need to remember it. There's another city in Lahore which is named after Kush. In fact,
Hmm.
Lahore, Rawalpindi, are all Punjabi-dominated areas. And I mean, credit to Pakistan, they haven't changed the name, so most of the names still remain as the Hindu prominent names.
Hmm. Oh my God, we have got so many positive comments as I was reading. I was so lost in reading that. Iqbal and Satya, these guys made me cry. Fulkari is a character in itself. Unity and harmony. Iqbal, I wish he was for real. I also wish for Iqbal to be real. He is such a sweetheart. I mean, you can't help but have a soft corner for him. I am
Oh,
in
yes.
love with Iqbal. Reminds me of the song Panchi Nadiyan Pavan Ki Chuke. Yeah, beautiful song.
In fact, actually, my parents are
Okay,
from Pakistan.
sorry.
Both my parents, I mean, now, of
Hmm.
course, my parents were from Pakistan. I mean, my mother was from
Oh,
Peshawar, I think,
okay.
and my father was from some smaller village. So most of these stories
Oh,
that you read, most of them have their basis in truth. And
okay.
in fact, every story is true. It's I've just fictionalized it, for to suit everyone's palate.
Yeah, I mean, throughout most of the book, we are focusing on the atrocities faced by women from both sides of the border. And some of the stories are so horrific. I was like, oh my God, our ancestors have gone through so much. We cannot even imagine. Yeah.
And the beauty is that despite that, they did not lose their will to live and to laugh. And that's
Yeah.
what's
Yeah, that's one of the most inspiring things. I mean, of course, they had their own reasons for not sharing the stories, but when Satya decides to, commemorate, I can say, the stories that the people during the partition went through, whatever experiences they underwent, it was a very good idea because, yes, we don't know these stories. And when we watch them on movies and series, we do feel like the way the younger generation feels that, it might not be that this is how it happened. They are showing it, over dramatizing it, or
yeah,
this is not something that must have happened, but in fact it is way more.
way more. It is so much way more. What you read in the book is a very um, I can't say watered down, but a sanitized version of what really happened
Hmm.
in terms of what happened was what punishment was meted out to women, to men. Um, it's it's far worse than it actually. I mean, the history doesn't talk much about it, but it was far worse than what was portrayed.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so based on my experience of reading the book, Natasha, we have a comment from Kirti. There are two motivations for us, and the way they went ahead with the rescue operations needs a lot of guts. Definitely, Kirti. Yeah, as I was saying, we can only imagine uh, what must have really gone down during those years. Okay, so based on my experience of reading the book, I have a couple of questions for you. Are you ready to answer those, Natasha?
Absolutely, I'm in the hot seat.
So my first question is, because I've already mentioned that I don't read this genre much, and of course I have not ventured into it as an author also. So my first question to you is, what are the main challenges that in your opinion, you faced, and in case you haven't even faced, what are the main challenges as an author when writing such a genre? How did you overcome those, and what was your experience like?
Problem of writing on partition is primarily that there is a lot of literature that already exists on the partition.
Hmm.
So when you sort of venture into writing on partition, and you're writing on a very specific topic, like I was talking about the Rescue Restoration Act, which was
Hmm.
initially called the Interdominion Act.
Hmm.
There is a lot of data which is available, but the data is not in. I mean, there's very less official places where where you can get these kind of
Hmm.
this kind of data to corroborate what you've written.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
had to depend a lot on total evidence, conversations or facts from people that I knew. I had relied a lot on auditory interviews rather than a lot of data that I could find on the net.
Hmm.
It is only after I came across, I think, Urushi Bhattacharya's book. It's called The Other Side of Silence, which looks at the partition from a gendered perspective.
Okay.
So, in the 20th century, Indian Pakistan partition has about 14.5 billion people who have moved from across the borders. But it
Hmm.
doesn't have a lot of documentation that supports this kind of large movement. It is the largest movement of the 20th century. But we don't have the kind of papers or the information to actually ask people what were their experiences, and
Hmm.
almost none exist for women. Women were never
Hmm.
asked what were their experiences, what was the kind of information that they want. They were basically never asked about anything. And
Hmm.
to find any kind of information about the women, the biggest challenge, in fact, despite there being data, the biggest challenge that I felt I faced was when you talk about a thing like the partition, where when women jump into wells or kill themselves, had the men in the family kill
Hmm.
them. Those are considered as honorable events. And women
Hmm.
who have been raped, molested, and survived the whole trauma would want to hold on to their silence. So it's very difficult in any situation, whether it is the partition or any other place, for women to talk about sexual,
Hmm.
kind of what kind of torture that they went through. Even now, when you have if you any kind of survivor who don't want to talk about that event again. So
Hmm.
this, getting any kind of information which was very difficult, and this is the biggest challenge that I faced, and it's very difficult to even ask someone, on the face that, were
Hmm.
you raped?
Yeah.
What was your experience?
Yeah.
Um, so from that perspective, getting data, I had to really rely only on white papers. There are a lot of white papers, technical sort of white papers that exist on different forums, which talk about the trauma that women underwent, whether it was Punjab or even Bengal for that matter.
Hmm.
So that is, and writing historical fiction, one has to be very careful to get your research done on time and on to make it as accurate as possible. I mean, of course,
Hmm.
as writers, we do have the fictional tag attached to us, so it doesn't have to be 100% accurate, but it has to err on the right side. So these
Hmm.
two are, the most difficult aspects that I felt when you're writing historical
Hmm.
fiction, especially on lines which are not very easily discussed in society. It becomes difficult to validate.
Wow. And I can imagine the kind of challenges you faced while doing also, because you were mentioning that people are not, and for obvious reasons, people are not willing to share their stories where
Yes,
they have undergone such a trauma. That must have been another impediment for you, right? So how did you manage that?
definitely. No, none of the people I spoke to ever admit to anything of this sort. There is a story that goes that initially Fulkari would also have the color black in it, the Fulkari embroidery. It is
Hmm.
when women came across from Pakistan to India, they decided that they will never ever touch the color black. The black color would never, it has formed such a major part of their lives in Pakistan that they would never
Hmm.
use this color again in their embroidery in India. And that is how that was the physical manifestations of their mental strength. So they refuse to talk about any kind of trauma that they went, because they felt that, talking about it would kind of erode their, possibly erode their confidence right now.
Hmm.
So getting this kind of data, one has to only rely on the statistics and assume that a certain amount of atrocities would have been meted out on the women,
Hmm.
but you don't really have hard data to say, this happened. So it's
Yeah.
you just basically imagine the worst and think 10 times. It would have been 10 times worse than what you've
Yeah.
imagined.
You have to go by gut feeling on a certain level, right? We have a question here from Nilshri. She's asking you, now that you have mentioned a sanitized version, how does an author decide which part to write and which to filter, especially when writing period specific stories or a sensitive, crucial topic like partition?
The first rule for any book, whether it is historically based or anything, is to be as non-offensive as you can
Hmm.
and as
Hmm.
balanced as without really losing the authenticity of what you want to say. So even in this book, I've tried my best to not blame either India or Pakistan for
Hmm.
what happened. Neither of them were at fault. So that
Hmm.
is one of the important things you keep in mind. A balanced view. Also, what is important is to not sensationalize what has happened because that sort of
Hmm.
cheapens
Hmm.
and vilifies. No,
Yeah.
it's basically it reduces the in the kind of trauma the women underwent. So always be
Hmm.
sensitive. Always try not to sensationalize. About
Hmm.
what yeah, about what to keep
Hello.
and what not to keep
Hmm.
is the decision we have to take because any reader cannot take a lot of facts that are gruesome. So one
Hmm.
has to uh, sanitize it, water it down to some extent. Um, see, there are a lot of incidents that have happened. Even the Rescue Restoration Act, there were women who were divorced and then they wanted to come back to the country. I can't keep, I couldn't include that in my story. So it was not,
Hmm.
it didn't really form a part of of the narrative that was going on. So things that don't really affect the central story, one has to trim, however painful it is to
Hmm.
not include those parts.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but in the end, it boils down to what really affects the central story is what you are going with. I hope
Hmm.
I answered your question.
Yeah, actually, you did. Being authentic is, of course, the most important thing, and also not sensationalizing it is, I believe, our duty as the creator of the story. And
Absolutely.
one more thing that you have already mentioned, I also wanted to talk about that. That one of the things that I really liked about your book is that it is not vilifying either side. I mean, it's not blaming either side for being this way or for whatever events that happened, because both sides have suffered and both sides have meted out the same kind of atrocities on the opposite side. So we cannot really say that मुझे ज्यादा हुआ या मैंने ज्यादा किया या उन्होंने ज्यादा किया. We cannot blame one side more than the other.
Correct. Pain doesn't understand suffering or religion. A pain doesn't know whether it is not destined by what kind of God you pray to or which kind of God you pray to.
Mm,
Pain is pain, and
mm,
women, irrespective of which border they are from, would have been, kind of made scapegoats irrespective.
yeah. We have Sangeeta also here saying that agree, some authors tend to put into the book everything one knows. So yeah, we have to
Right.
also make the choice about cutting out the parts that don't really add to the central plot or of the story. Okay, we have talked enough about the. I mean, not enough. I would love to know more about what went behind, but I also want to know the other part of what went behind the making of the story, which is the contribution of the community. I noticed that in your acknowledgements, you have mentioned a plethora of communities and a lot of people. So I want to understand from you what role does the community or the communities that you are a part of and the people who are in this journey with you, what role do they play in bringing about such a story and making it possible to be published?
Okay. There's a saying: it takes a village to raise a child. And even though writing is a solitary habit or a solitary field, it takes a lot of people to actually get out because times when you want people to beta read, you want people. Am I audible? Am I audible?
You were cutting off a bit. Now you are audible. Yes.
Okay, okay, cool. I think I had a network. It
Okay. You are not audible anymore.
Again?
We'll just we'll just ask in the comments. Is Natasha audible? Is there any issue in what she's saying? Are you able to hear her? Let us know in the comments. Those who are here with us, Nilshri, Sangeeta, if you are here with us, please let us know in the comments that if Sangeeta is, if Natasha is
Yeah,
audible.
I think
Voice is cracking. Yeah,
it's
Nilshri has.
okay. Okay. Airtel.
Yes, I can see her now. Sangeeta has replied no. Can you hear her now? Are you there, Natasha? Hello? I think there was an issue. I'm just going to add her again to that. Okay, I can't see her here. To stay connected, we were talking about the importance of community, network issue at Natasha's, and I think.
Yeah, I do have. Am I
Yes, you are, but your voice is cracking. Natasha, you can do one thing. You can exit, and I will add you again. Let's see if that solves the
I'll do
issue.
that. I'll do that.
Yeah. Yes, Afsana. I am trying to add her to the live again. There was some issue from her side, some network issues, which is why we were not able to hear her properly. Yeah, Natasha, I've invited you again. See if you can join.
Yep.
Hi.
Um,
Oh, now I can see you.
you can see me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Those of you who are with us, please let us know in the comments that if the network issue has been resolved, because I am able to see her and I can hear her clearly now. So let us know in the comments if everything is fine now. Yes, Natasha, you were answering my question about the community.
Right. So I said it takes a lot of people to really help you write a book in terms of beta reading, in terms of giving you very integral suggestions at the right time. And sometimes you have friends who just tell you that this is absolute utter rubbish. Go back to the drawing board. Sort of a virtual kick. A lot of people that I've thanked, I definitely want to. I definitely have a lot of gratitude for them, like Penmancy, because that's where I really honed my skill of
Hmm.
how to write dialogues and so on and so forth. So I think communities are a very integral part of a writer because we are really nothing without people who can support us.
Hmm.
They're the wind beneath the wings to a large extent.
So I think somebody had mentioned here that you are a community in itself. You bring everyone together. I'm not sure who said that, but I felt like you should, you should know. Somebody has said that.
But thank you very much for the compliment.
Okay, so that brings me to the end of my questions that I had for you. Those of you who are watching us, and if you have any questions for Natasha, please keep sending them in the comments. We'll address them as and when we receive them. Okay, so I am done with my questions. It's your turn now. You have also read my latest book.
Absolutely. Heartstrings and Harmonies, a symphony of emotions. What a lovely tale that was. The 29 short stories, and each of them, covering such a vast topic of love, loss, friendship, basically the whole spectrum of,
So this is the book
of
we are
love.
talking about, Heartstrings and Harmonies. Natasha has read this book of mine.
Yes,
It's a collection of 20
very
short stories. Yes, please go
nice.
on.
And you know what? I really, of course, I have a few favorite in the stories. But what I really liked about the stories is that you've taken a slice of life, and each slice of life is so perfectly accompanied by a song that sort of tailor made for the story. And sometimes the stories may be shorter, but they give you such a variety of of things that happen in our lives. That is, it's very delightful, and I really enjoyed the kind of diverse range that you've offered to your readers to read. And the characters are sometimes the characters are little snippets of you. Sometimes they resemble people and, events that you've sort of experienced. So for me, it was a very interesting sort of a journey. These toy trains that you take in Ooty.
Oh,
It goes through
yeah. Oh, what an analogy. I'm loving this. Thank you.
like Love Day station to Ooty, small, छोटा, धीरे धीरे जा रहा है ना. You see you see a range of sort of things out there, and that's exactly the kind of feeling that I got when I was reading your book. It's such a beautiful view into love, and the different kinds of love that you've spoken about: friendship love, you've spoken about romantic love, and there's heartbreak, there's betrayal, there's grief, and how beautifully you sort of stitch it all together in the book.
That means a lot to me. Just a second, I'm going to hold you. Nilshi is saying I have a question posted in the comment. Nilshi, you had one question that I think we already answered about watering down the events that have happened. Was there any other question? Please post it again, Nilshi. I think we have missed it. Yes, please continue, Natasha.
And what I really felt that sometimes in shorter stories you have been able to do more. You've been able to show a larger variety of relationships that would maybe not have been possible if it was a full length novel, because there are practically 5 or 6 characters. But here, like my favorite story is about Krisha, who goes to
The hill station. Yeah.
so and and there are other ones, like there's this one about a coach and his the child he sort of trains. And I love the fact that you've used a symbolism that when you say the sign V for victory, it is actually not victory, but it is two people who've
Yeah.
contributed. It's a beautiful thought. And there's so many other stories that I some of them really touched me, and I think I've listed them down in my review that I've put up at Amazon. If Amazon has released it, I don't know. I've sort of gone by category. She's like Manali has broken it down by love by relationship, love by and it's lovely. And there's especially one on friendship where I really like this girl who she I think Verma, I can't remember her first name, but she meets her friend, and there is
They
uh,
are catching the bus for the
yeah.
college.
um, especially friendship at that age when you're younger, they mean so much to you because they are the validations of what you're feeling at that point in time. So I think it's a beautiful thing that you've captured
Thank you so
in
much.
your book.
That means a lot to me. She is asking, "ये मौसम का जादू है मितुआ वाली?" No, I think no, that's not the story Natasha is talking about. She's talking about the two friends wala story where they are, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yes. Would you also like to read out a few passages
Yes,
from my book?
definitely. I'm going to now put on my reading glasses because I'm old and I need them. Okay. So I'm reading from my favorite story, which is um, Musafir Hu Yaro, or O Maid Summer Wanderer. Krisha's face lit up on hearing the familiar ringtone. Mom, you were right. The train journey is absolutely breathtaking. I'm glad I didn't take the road trip or a flight and did this instead. Did you get a window seat? I hope you've taken pictures. Yes to both your questions. You've trained me well, don't worry. Anyway, I'm about to reach Shogi and will call you once I reach the campsite. Okay, dear, take care, enjoy and update me soon. Bye. Krisha cut the call and quickly gathered her belongings. As the train began to slow down, she made her way to the compartment door. Ouch! While getting down, one of her shoes got stuck in a nail that had come off the footboard. Panicking, she wobbled and maneuvered her foot while muttering in agitation. After a few seconds of struggle, she finally managed to pull the shoe out before the train's horn blew. She dragged herself to the benches on the station and sat down to assess the damage. Damn, I'll have to buy a new ones. Krisha looked around and could hardly see any more than a handful of people milling around. Well, you're no damsel in distress, Miss Krisha. She motivated herself, keeping dread at bay. Then she opened her backpack, took out the glue she always carried, and managed to fix the shoe, at least temporarily. Let's see where we can buy new ones now. She cheered herself and walked to the railway station. Uh, the song repeats itself. Um, I'm just taking a break to talk to the audience. A very defining part of the book is that of the book Heartstrings and Harmonies is that um, there is a certain music or a song that's associated with every story, and that song comes in at very integral moments. So right now again the song is repeated where the whole Musafir hu yaro na ghar hai na ठिकाना मुझे चलते जाना है बस चलते जाना and and I'm going to go on with the book. Krisha's somber mood turned hopeful as the lyrics of her mother's favorite song reached her ears. What a lovely coincidence, she mumbled to herself, making her way towards the shop where the song was playing. Trinkets and treasures. Krisha read the board on top of the shop as she entered the cozy space. Hello, dear. Welcome to Shogi. How may I help you? Uh, I think, yeah, I'm sorry. The bespectacled, oh God, I'm going to just go ahead. Behind the counter asked Krisha. Is this a retail shop? Krisha asked after a quick look around the items displayed in the window and racks. It was an odd mix of clothes, scarves, books, and old records. You can say that, dear, the gentleman replied, a twinkle in his eyes. Are you looking for something specific? I'm Anand, by the way. Hello, I'm Krisha. Do you have trekking shoes? Krisha asked with hope and doubt in her voice. Ah, of course. Come around to the back, Anand walked to an aisle to the back of the shop. Krisha followed. Take your pick, dear. Krisha's eyes almost fell out of her sockets. Quite a selection, right? Anand voiced out her thoughts. These are the shoes that tourists leave behind as gift or forget in their rooms. In fact, most of the items here you see are like that, Anand said, flourishing his hand around the little shop. Krisha chose the footwear that fit her best, happy that she had even managed to get them in her favorite color. And I'll tell you why I really like this story because this story has a very old world charm where Krisha would go on to discover something she never thought she would, and that surprise is in the end the surprise is very heartfelt. So this is one of my favorite stories of the entire book that the book Heartstrings and Harmonies.
Thank you. And I felt so happy while you were reading it because we had hearts coming in as you were reading. And Nilshri has commented Feviquick, her ladki ka humsafar, purse mein easily aa jaye.
Recently, I went to this. I stayed in Pune, so there was Arijit Singh's concert going on, and there was some, as it is on long lines, and people had to walk a lot, and many girls' shoes came out because they were not expecting to walk for 2.5 kilometers. And it was so nice to see, a gentleman who was standing with possibly his wife, and so he was fixing her shoe with Fevikwik, and he gave her his shoe to wear ताकि उसके पैर जमीन पे ना पड़े.
Oh,
He was such a sweet sight. So I'm telling my husband.
oh my God.
Yeah. So Fevikwik is such an integral part of our lives. I mean, it's such a
Yeah.
important thing that one should carry. Anyways. So while I read the book, I had a lot of questions that sort of popped up in my mind. Um, and in Heartstrings and Harmonies, you've paired each story with a very specific Bollywood or Hindi song. How do you choose which song to include, and what role do you think music plays in shaping your narratives?
Okay, so particularly for this book, I had the theme in mind when I received the prompt for the first story that I began the book with, which is Ye Sham Mastani. The story title is This Intoxicating Evening. So I received a writing prompt from one of the communities that I'm a part of, and the prompt was write a story inspired by your favorite song. And that's how I began the first story. And after finishing the story, my first thought was, why just stick to one story? I can make a collection of stories out of yeah. So I was like, I'm going to write many more stories like this based on a song inspired by many songs. Each story inspired by a different song. So that's how the journey of this book began. And after that, I kept my eyes and ears open to every prompt that I came across, every writing prompt that came across to me from the various communities that I'm a part of. And when I received those prompts, my first thought was that with this prompt, what song can go? And then, yeah, when the song came to me, I was like, with that particular song or the lyrics, so what I did was when I had the song zeroed down, I looked at the lyrics. I looked at the lyrics and then I was like, these lyrics will form a part of a story which can go like this. So
Right.
for this particular prompt which talks about, uh, I'm not remembering the prompt, but there's a story where two friends are meeting after a while and they were staying together, but one of them develops feelings for the other and the other
Right.
person doesn't. So the song came to me first, which was Ahate from the movie Ek Main Aur Ek Tu, which is also again unreciprocated love. And I was like, yes, this song will go particularly with a situation like that where, two friends are meeting and one of them doesn't have the same kind of feelings that the other one has. So, so that's how each story came about. Generally, most of the stories came like that. There's another story where two friends are working together at Javeri Bazaar, and they are working in a shop, jewelry shop together, and one of them receives a call where the ringtone is Nadan Parinde, and they are asking him to come back home. So that was one story where the story came first and the song came later because yeah. So there are a couple of such stories where the story came first and then I matched the song. But for most of them, I thought of the song first and then the story came to me.
Okay. There's another one that this lady girl who finds a letter in a book.
Yeah, हमारी अधूरी कहानी.
I really like that song too. That's also meant I mentioned that, and of course, the song went really well with the narrative. So while you've written a book and your anthology is sort of a celebration of love, there are some stories that touch upon themes like loss. So how do you balance the contrasting emotions while maintaining a very positive, upbeat kind of feel in your book?
So I am that kind of a person who feels all kind of emotions very strongly. Like I cannot ignore that. So I think that kind of translates into my writing also. I'm not able to keep my emotions and my writing like very far away from each other. Having said that, I am also a person who understands that loss and grief are a part of our life. We cannot,
Right.
you know, expect to live through life without having any kind of grief or pain. We are bound to lose certain people in the journey of life. Of course, that journey will be difficult, and we have to come to terms with it in our own time. But that doesn't mean we have to stop living. We have to accept it as a part of our life. However long it takes for us to heal, we have to be able to accept that a certain person is not a part of our lives anymore. So, in trying to say that, I have given out hope that despite having lost something or someone, there's always hope at the end of the tunnel. You have something to look forward to. You just have to find it. And also that the person that you have lost would probably not like it that you are constantly living your life like this, missing them and not able to enjoy life.
Right.
Yeah. And of course you can use that person's memories to create something that that can commemorate them also.
Right. True. And yeah, that's beautifully said. Because sometimes people I had a mentor who he was my professor, and he was very uh, deeply the motivated to sort of he pushed me to write, and unfortunately he died of a cardiac arrest before my book got printed.
Oh
So
my
I
God.
kind of understand that you miss certain people, but you feel their presence, and sometimes it's their memories that sort of push you ahead to go into life. But it's a beautiful thought. What I also felt that some stories were relatively short, and they all often you felt as a reader, that you want something more from it. Was it a deliberate choice to allow so that a variety of experiences could be reader could experience, or are you you know sort of thinking of expanding those specific stories into a longer format?
There are a few stories that, readers have got back to me saying that, they were expecting it to go on further because, there's not a proper closure that I have given to those stories. It felt like they ended abruptly. Of course, that's a critical feedback, and probably I should focus on that while working on the short stories that haven't kind of connected as well as the others. That's something I can focus on. And yes, it has also given me a thought that maybe I can convert them into a novel or a novella.
Right.
So there are a few stories which I have in mind that I want to convert them into longer versions. But currently, I don't think I'm as motivated as I should be for converting them into longer versions.
Oh God, motivation is such an important part of a writer's life,
Yeah.
right? And it always needed for
Yeah,
most.
so the seed has been sown in my mind by the readers and the feedback that I have received on the book. But I'm like, zaruri hai kya abhi? That is also there.
True. Uh, One more thing that I wanted to ask you is that you have I mean the stories in the collection, they have a wide range of experience and emotions, whether it's love, friendship, betrayal, and so on and so forth. Was there any specific kind of a theme that you were or a message that you're looking for, looking to give to the reader, through the course of the diverse narratives?
There were two things. One is, of course, that music forms an integral part of our lives. And if somebody is not a music lover, probably the nudge was towards pushing them towards, this form of art, which can be so healing for anyone. So, yes, that was one thing. The second thing was that as a person, I believe that love is not limited to love between two life partners. Love has many shades, and it can be experienced with other people in your life also, like your friends, your family, your parents, or somebody you might have just met, or somebody who's a stranger and they touch your life in a way that changed the course of your life. So that is another message that I was trying to convey, which is also a reason why I have divided the stories into different segments where love is friendship, love is romance, love is hope. So yeah, that was another uh, purpose of doing such a variety of stories.
Hmm. Because I really felt that music, for someone who enjoys music possibly as much as you do. I also heard a lot of music while I was writing, because music definitely sets the mood, for what you want to write. You want a sad song, you want to put a sad music. Heartbreak, you put heartbreak, a peppy song. So it really kind of it sort of calibrates the kind of mood that you want to be in. So yes, music is such an integral part. Um, Another question that I had was, when you've started your book with a prologue, or a sort of a prologue of a poem that promises to enhance the enjoyment once the reader reads the book. How do you think of
Hmm.
this idea? That's the second one. And this is like a very effective, tantalizing hook, that sort of draws you in. In your opinion, how important is, to have a hook in a story or in a book?
So I have heard this from many writers in the genre of crime thrillers and action thrillers, where they begin the story on a very high note. Like right away there is either a murder that has already happened, or we are thrown into a scene where the murder is going to happen in a few passages. So, yeah, and I am somebody who loves that genre. So my top two favorite genres as a reader are romance and crime thrillers. So maybe I'm inspired by that particular particular trait in crime thrillers and thrillers, where I want to get the feel of the book right away, and probably that bit of me as a reader shows into my writing as well. So
Right.
yes, I believe a hook is very important. You have to get the especially now, because the attention span of people, as we know, it's within 10 seconds they want that high, that that feeling of validation should be instant. And in today's digital age, if we are not able to capture the attention of our readers in the first few passages or the first few pages, you're gone. They're going to put your book down.
Right.
They will not continue unless and until they are somebody who's a huge fan of yours, or who somebody who knows you personally. They will not. They will put down your book. So yes, having a hook is very important, in my opinion, and that's something that I picked up from authors that I follow in the genre of thrillers. Romance doesn't necessarily have that particular kind of characteristics, but I think they should have, because as I mentioned, you have to catch the attention of your reader in the first few pages itself. So
Right.
yes, that's one thing that I believe, and it's very important. And the other thing related to the poem, it's very interesting actually. uh, so I have this habit of putting the prologue of the story, especially when I'm doing an anthology like this. I have this habit of putting the prologue towards the last. I mean, I decide on how I'm going to start the particular book, in what manner. I keep it for the last moment, because I want to focus on the main content of the book, which is the stories or the poetry that I'm putting together. For this particular book, I kept it towards the last, and while I was doing that, brainstorming it, I was also working together with another blogger, where I host a series of blog hops. And this particular blog hop we were doing in the month of February, and we were focusing on the theme of love.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what I wanted to do in this blog hop initially was that I wanted to put out one story from the book
Okay.
in this blog hop as a teaser. So that was the initial idea, that it will work as a pre-promotion for the release of the book also, and it will generate the interest of the readers. That was the initial idea. And when I discussed it with a few people who are really close friends of mine, they were like, Acha, so this is your plan. Is it a collection of short stories that you are putting out? I was like, it can't be this easy to get the genre of the book that I'm planning to put out. So, so I changed the idea. I was like, no, I'm not going to do what I was initially planning to do. How about I combine it with something that I'm already very good at? I believe I'm good at, which is poetry. So I was like, maybe I can do a summary of each of the story in the form of a short passage, which summarizes each story in 2 lines or 2 or 3 lines, and that's how it came about.
Very, very interesting. It's a very interesting way of catching a reader's attention.
Yeah. In fact, if you ever get a chance to read my novels, my 2 novels that I've written, in those also I begin the story with a very interesting hook. One of them, the blue cover that you see behind me, Love Triangle. It's a rom-com, and I begin that one also with a poem, which is very again women oriented, and it talks about the atrocities that women undergo. And in the second book, I begin with a prologue where the female protagonist is watching one of her favorite movies and how she behaves while watching that movie. So it sort of, takes you right into the crux of the female characters, and that's the kind of purpose of the entire book, where I am showing the growth of the two women characters that are a part of the book, the main female leads of my book, where from the start to the end, how they have grown through the entire course of the story. So yeah,
Very interesting.
that's essentially how the hook happens. I mean, that's how I believe that you can catch the right hook, by showing the character that you are trying to show the journey of, and focus on that character. Show them doing something that they love. Show them doing something that they will be doing in the beginning and the end of the book.
True. Makes sense.
Yeah, so that's it. Okay, so I think we are done with the long form questions that we had for each other. And we come to my favorite part of the episode, which is the rapid fire round. So,
Okay.
what we'll do in this, Natasha, is we'll go back and forth. I'll ask you one question and then you can ask me one question. Okay?
Okay.
Since you are the
Okay.
guest, I'm going to start by asking you. And I'm sure this question is on the mind of most of the readers, which is Satya and Ikankar or Satya and Iqbal? Why or why not?
Satya and Iqbal all the way. Why not? Because Satya and Iqbal are volcanic. Satya and Ikankar are like maybe a placid or river flowing. So there's a difference. Excitement versus stability. So
Yeah.
I would always pick excitement. I have a question for you. If you could dedicate one song to your readers, which one would it be?
Oh wow, that's a difficult one. I'm just going to, go through the index of my book and pick a song that, out of the 30 in this, which can be dedicated. So there are 30 songs in the 29 stories in this book. Mm, I think it would be Abhi Na Jao Chhodkar
Oh, how
because
sweet.
I have a long way to go.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that would be perfect because I am also being grateful for their presence and I'm also telling them that there's a long way to do. Stay with me.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Okay. So my next question to you is the one scene. I mean, there are a lot of scenes that brought me to tears in the book, but I want to understand as an author and creator of the story from you, the one scene that was the most difficult to write for you and why.
Um, there were two scenes that were difficult to write. One was one I can't get into because it would be a spoiler, but one scene I can definitely talk about is Prerna's scene when she talks about how she sort of had to kill her children before, and that's actually based on a true story. It also forms the background of, I think, Thomas in 1988. And for me to write that story, because as a parent myself, to be able to think of doing something like this to your child and unfortunately surviving to deal with it every day.
Hmm.
Uh, wow, what a life that must have been. So for me, that was the most difficult scene to write.
Yeah.
One of the most.
Uh,
The one that I wrote,
for me,
sorry,
sorry,
was
sorry, you were saying.
was the Amrita Pritam conversation, Amrita Santosh conversation that where they are discussing about their
Hmm.
where Pritam Amrita is talking about her story. So that specific scene I had to rewrite quite a few times
Hmm.
to be able to get into the right emotion out. That was the tough scene to write, but the emotionally one was the Prerna one. I'm sorry, I think I interrupted you for something.
Yeah, I was going to say the one that was difficult for me as a reader. Uh, uh, I am not remembering the name of the character, but it's when a mother is crossing the border with her twins and,
Pratik,
she has
yeah,
to
right.
make a difficult decision as a mother again. I was like, my God, how do you decide such a thing?
That's actually based on a true story. It was a woman who had to choose between a toddler and a newborn son, and she left.
Oh my God.
She leaves the toddler. It's based on one of the true stories. Imagine
Oh my God.
the kind of decisions women had to make. So
Yeah.
many levels.
Oh my God.
So,
Okay, yes, your turn.
yeah, tea or coffee? Which beverage fuels your writing sessions?
Neither. I would say tea, dip tea. So I am a fan of the tea bags. So I would say tea, but more than these two, I would say it's hot chocolate. So I I'm a truly yeah I'm a chocolate lover, and if I can, I will choose hot chocolate over tea or coffee any day.
Okay.
Okay. My next question to you. Towards the end of the story, we see Satya creating a memoir or of sorts where she makes a museum for commemorating the memories and in the form of memorabilia and audio stories where she has shared the experiences that first-hand experiences of the people who went through those. So I wanted to ask you, does a museum like this exist? And have you visited it or any such place?
The first museum, first partition museum, opened in 2017, I think, in Amritsar. It's just next to Jallianwala Bagh, which
Okay.
I visited in 2018. And a similar museum where in fact, my book's launch happened in the Partition Museum in Delhi. It's just opened last year on 18th May. So I had my book launch there. Both the museums are beautiful. They create replicas of refugee camps, of trains. They have artifacts which have been donated by people who have been migrants and refugees. So if you ever get a chance, you must visit both. There's one in Amritsar and there's sister and one in Delhi.
Okay,
So in
I
fact,
would love to. And anyway, Jallianwala Bagh is on my bucket list. Do want to visit that, especially after watching the movie by Vicky Kaushal, Sardar Udham. I mean, I was so moved. I was like, I really have to. Even if it is difficult, I want to.
right,
So there's one particular site that I have visited like this, which is the cellular jail in Andaman, and I was moved to tears. So that's one more place where we undergo through the experience, and it's like
sure.
goosebump giving and
Right.
tear
Yeah.
inducing. Yeah,
So if you had a choice, would you be a singer or a lyric writer?
lyric writer any day. So I have this habit anyway that I can convert a situation into a song, like a self-made song, self-made lyrics. I do that almost every day whenever I'm talking to people. So yeah, I would, if given a choice, I would be a lyricist and not a singer.
Okay.
My next
Mm,
question to you is a historical event besides the Indo-Pak partition which impacted you deeply, and any reason for that?
1984 or 85, I don't remember. I was very young. The Sikh riots, Indira Gandhi assassination, and the aftermath of the Sikh riots. I was visiting my grandmother in Kanpur in UP, and we actually saw, though I was young, but we actually saw riots break out and houses being ransacked and set to fire. And so it's something that's very deeply impacted me when I was fairly young, maybe 5 or 6, I don't know. I plan to write about it, but not now. A little later on, when I feel I have got the maturity to handle this. Because see, in India, Pakistan, we had a clear cut. Uh, Someone we could blame the British for it. But when the rights happened, it's us against us. So it's very difficult uh, to articulate both because we have family members who are Sikhs and we are of course Hindus. So I still need some more time to grow as a
Yeah.
writer before I can write that.
I would be looking forward to that one. I want to interrupt you here and recommend something that मैंने देखा नहीं है अभी खुद, but I watched an interview where the actor who uh, uh, acted in that particular series spoke about it. Diljit Dosanjh. He has acted in this Netflix series called Jogi, I think. I have not watched it, but during an interview, when the interviewer asked him about the experience of working in a story where these riots are in the center of the story, he corrects him and he says that it was not a riot, it was a genocide. Riot तब होता है जब दो साइड पे होता
Absolutely.
है.
And I'm a Hindu, I can say it because I had my hubby is Sikh, and she said ki it is in fact it is called the genocide that India doesn't talk about.
Hmm.
But anyways, another topic altogether.
When you said the word riot, I was reminded of that interview that I watched, and I was like, you know, uh, we tend to, not be aware about such things because, we have not. Uh, anyway, so he was very much like, don't use the word riot. It was not a riot.
No, that's you're
Yes,
right.
your
I
turn.
um, what is your most unusual place that you inspired to write a love story?
Most unusual place. I mean, as a creator, you can never, switch off that button in your head where, anytime the idea can strike you. So I would say the most unusual would be while watching TV. Yeah, when I'm watching something entertaining, and suddenly I'm like, oh my god, why didn't I think of that? Maybe I can do that. So yeah, even while you are enjoying something, that brings you joy, that switch in your head can go off anytime. Okay, my next question to you is a historical fiction, a book or a movie or a show that you would recommend. You can recommend all three
Uh,
also. One book, one movie, one show.
Show, I don't watch a lot of TV, so I don't know. But the movie definitely is Pinjar by Amrita Pritam.
Hmm.
It's both a book as well as a movie, so you can watch. I've watched the movie. I haven't seen. I've read the book, but anything you if you can pick up from Amrita Pritam would be or. I think Amrita Pritam is the first person. Even Manto, Tobate
Hmm.
Singh. I think that's Manto's version of
Politicians too.
Beautiful Soul.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to that would be my advice for a book, and for a movie it would be picture. I don't watch a lot of television now, so Tamas maybe Tamas was 1988. So yeah, so I did all three.
Okay. So yeah, in fact, when I was putting up our poster for this conversation, author collaborative, I was looking for an appropriate track to go with it, and that's the first keyword that I put in while searching in the Instagram music library. I searched for any song from the movie Pinjar, but unfortunately, I couldn't find it, and same reason because that was also another story that I was so moved. I was crying. I think I was crying for 2 3 days thinking about it.
Yeah, it's a
Beautiful,
beautiful
beautiful
story.
story.
It's a beautiful
You
story.
have
Must
a
watch.
bit of that in your also. मैं तेनू फिर मिलांगी. You have used those words.
Yes, actually, the whole Iqbal and the whole Iqbal Satya romance is my nod to the Amrita Pritam and Sahir Ludhianvi romance, where she used to pick up his cigarette butts and she used to smoke them
Yeah,
after she'd gone. So that's the only way that they could sort of meet.
yeah,
So why I've included
beautiful.
those parts. Yeah, मैं तेनू फिर मिलांगी, of course. That's Amrita Pritam is my new found discovery.
Wonderful. Oh, that brings us to the end of today's conversation. Let me just go and check out if you missed any questions from the audience. I don't think so. I think we answered all the questions that came in between. So, I think Nilsi was mentioning about my story about the hill station. She was confusing it with the other story where uh, the two young people are visiting the Spring of Flowers.
Yeah,
Valley of Flowers, yeah, they are visiting. So, Nilsri, no, that was not the story that Natasha was referring to. Natasha was referring to the other story
yeah, the
where a
South
young girl is visiting the hill station. Yes. So, that brings us to the end of today's conversation. We have answered each other's questions and the audience questions also. Thank you, Natasha. This was a very, very invigorating conversation. I cannot thank you enough for joining me today.
thank you again. Thank you so much for calling me. This has really been my honor to be here. Thank you so much. And I hope we get a chance to do this again.
Yes, I am going to now keep pushing you to write the 1984 genocide story. Please, please do that.
Yeah.
Please.
This research is going
Okay.
on like going to be a long time. But thank you so much, and thank you, audience. Thank you for joining in, and it's lovely to be here.
Yeah. Thank you once again and have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye bye.